And we continue now with our live post-game coverage of the President's first State of the Union address. And joining me now with reaction is the former governor of Alaska, Fox News contributor, Governor Palin. Governor, how are you?
I'm doing great, Sean. Thanks for letting me be here.
Well, we appreciate you being here. We're glad to have you on board. First of all, your initial reaction.
I think that there was a lot of lecturing going on tonight versus inspiring the American people and independent politicians who were sitting there in the audience waiting to hear some acknowledgement that there has been a disconnect between the White House and the people who are expecting more from our government, more in terms of empowerment of the people, not relying on government to meet all of our challenges, but empowering our families, our small businesses to fix the problems that we're facing today.
Governor, my take on it is it was not as presidential as I would expect it to be. Let me explain by that. I thought it was extremely partisan. I thought he regurgitated all the old lines of old speeches, doubled down on cap and tax and on tax increases, you know, more stimulus spending, a freeze, but the freeze doesn't start for another year. What was your reaction to the tone specifically of the speech?
Well, again, not as inspiring as perhaps we're used to President Obama coming across as, but I think that that's an indication still of that disconnect between the people and the White House. He not understanding that, no, we don't want to just chill a little bit and cool a little bit on his health care plan. We want the thing killed because it's government takeover of about 1/6 of our economy. We don't want to see that go forward. So with an issue like that, still with that disconnect, I think that there was no way for him to come across as inspiring when he still is proposing those top-down big government solutions to the challenges that we're facing when the people want empowerment for our businesses, our families.
You know, Governor, I took some notes as the President was speaking. He talked about, for example, the outsized influence of lobbyists, but he hired a bunch of them. He talked about, quote, to do our work openly. He promised C-SPAN. It was all behind closed doors. He said, for example, well, we're going to eliminate earmarks. Well, he signed all the earmarks. You know, he talked about balancing budgets, but he's raised the debt, nearly quadrupled it. Is he out of touch in some way with his own policies?
I believe so, and I think a lot of the fact checkers tonight are going to be quite busy as they run down the content of that speech, and they're going to call him on some of these claims that he made tonight. For instance, you bring up the lobbyist issue. Yeah, he's got at least 11 high-powered lobbyists who are part of now his administration, helping make some calls, and yet he claimed that lobbyists essentially aren't having a whole lot to do with policy. That's not entirely true. So fact checkers are going to be pretty busy tonight, and tomorrow I think we're going to see a lot of the details come out.
All right, I want to show our audience something. There was a moment in the speech tonight, Governor, where he spoke about campaign finance and the Supreme Court decision. Now, we have an isolated view of Justice Alito, and you could watch his lips. It's clear to me what he's saying. He's using the words "not true." So let's roll this tape, and I want to get your take on this.
Including foreign corporations, to spend without limit in our elections.
Did you see that, Governor?
I saw it, Sean. I tell you, this is why people are disenchanted and are becoming more and more disengaged, really, from what their government is doing. Because when we see an issue like this, words spoken that may not be true, coming from our president and embarrassing our Supreme Court and not respecting the separation of powers, we have a problem. And that's illustrated there by that justice mouthing those words, not true. Now, one or the other is being disingenuous here, either our president in what he just claimed or the Supreme Court justice. And I think that this is going to be a huge takeaway moment from the speech tonight.
No, I think it's going to be a huge takeaway moment, too. What did you think specifically when he brought up the issue of health care, Governor? I'd love to get your take on that. More specifically, he almost sounded as if, well, we the American people, that we're just sort of out of touch. We're not understanding him. And he actually used the phrase, you know, it's a complex issue. The longer it was debated, the more skeptical people became. I take my share of blame for not explaining it to the American people. And I'm thinking, you explained it again and again and again, and people rejected it. So what was your takeaway?
Yeah, bingo, exactly that. Ever since about August, more and more Americans have paid more attention to what is in this health care bill, and more Americans are becoming more and more concerned about what we see in there. So it hasn't been a matter of he not being able to explain his policy with government takeover and mandation of health care, but Americans understanding what's in there, not liking it, and sending him that message via the 3 recent Republican sweeps in Virginia, in New Jersey, Scott Brown's election too, and the Tea Party movements, the town hall events, people sending that message to the president, namely health care being a focus on this. He not understanding that we don't want to see government takeover of 1/6 of our economy.
Yeah, well, let me ask you, I got to get in one national security question. He did not spend a lot of time on the speech. When I printed out my version, it was only 14 pages, and only about 1.5 pages max was used on the issue of national security. But he said at one time, for America must always stand on the side of freedom and human dignity, Governor. And I'm thinking, except maybe in Iran, when people are risking their lives and they're on the streets and Iran thumbs their nose at America. Did you have the same reaction or a different reaction?
Well, only about 10% of the speech being dedicated to the war on terror, and where we are with national security issues is quite concerning. But, yeah, Iran now is a perfect place for him to, I guess, start, to press that reset button, if you will, and say, okay, we are going to stand up for those who are craving democracy and freedom, and we're going to speak out. The United States of America is going to speak out in support of those who desire this freedom. Now, if he doesn't fulfill this, as he just claimed tonight, then more and more people are going to say, look, Mr. President, we cannot trust you. You've already broken so many promises. Don't go back on your word on this one.
All right, Governor, we always appreciate having you, and thanks for being with us.